Have you ever heard stories about how simple it used to be to homestead? 100 years ago, you could just dig a hole and call it a septic system. But today it's a bit more complicated. And that's why in today's live stream, I'm going to show you a 5-acre property in Valencia County, New Mexico, and also follow up on yesterday's live stream by diving into cesspools and what you need to know before you buy a property with one. All right, so here's a quick overview of the agenda. I'll take 5 minutes to give you updates on our latest activity, cover the deal of the day, along with a coupon code special for anyone who's joining live, and then cover the top questions about cesspools because that was brought up in yesterday's live stream. And of course, I'll answer any questions that anyone who's joining might have. But first, just to go over who I am, my name is Erica. My company is Gokce Capital. I buy and sell vacant land. Our website is gokcecapital.com. That's Gokce capital.com. To find all of our properties, you can click Buy Land at the top of the website. Now, we do operate across the U.S., and you can see all of our available properties on a map on our main listing page. If you want to zoom in on a particular area, you can look at the properties there, click on any of the pins and click Available, and you'll find the property's main listing page. You can also scroll down and find a little bit of information on all of our available properties, along with links to the property's listing pages. I'll note that some of our properties, like this one in Hampshire County, are on hold. We actually just had a hold placed on one of our Luna County properties. And I like to note this because for all the properties that we sell ourselves, and that is any property that says available and doesn't say listed with a realtor, we offer both owner financing and a hold option. So you can hold the property for up to 8 days while you do your research. And hi, Judith, thank you for joining. Thank you so much for being here. Okay. So latest updates, we had these 4 half-acre properties in Luna County that we recently brought to market. They are all adjacent, so they could be purchased separately or all together. And we just sold one and another is on hold. So these are generating a lot of interest right now. So I wanted to, and Luna County, by the way, is in New Mexico. So I wanted to highlight, these are half-acre properties that are just under $2,000, so a very affordable entry into land ownership. But I wanted to highlight one of our larger Valencia County, New Mexico properties. This is 5 acres. It is for sale by owner. That means owner financing is available. And it's under $7,500. So for 5, it's pretty affordable price for 5 acres, so for a lot of land. All right, so where is Valencia County? It is just south of Albuquerque. You're only about 40 minutes to Albuquerque, so not too far from a major city and jobs. You can see here right next to the Manzano Mountains. We bought and sold a lot of properties in Valencia County. These tend to go quickly. We get a lot of interest in them. And because we've done so much business here, we actually went and visited this area ourselves. And I can say I personally was surprised at how pretty this area is. You get these kind of nice wide open views. And in the other direction, which I don't have an image yet, we'll be getting drone footage soon of all of these properties. But in the other direction, you get beautiful views of the Manzano Mountains from this area. Now, I will note, though, that these are rural properties, so that does mean you're not going to have access to any utilities. This would be off-grid if you did want to try and build. You can see someone may have tried to start a homestead here. But it is New Mexico, so keep in mind that wells are going to be potentially going to be very deep. So a lot like this may also work better as a recreational lot. It is zoned residential out here, so mobile home would be allowed. Pretty flexible zoning, but also a good recreational lot or just investment because it is priced very affordably. And in that note, another reason I like this area is we're pretty close to Belen and Los Lunas, areas that, according to our research, seem to have a fair amount of economic development activity going on. So for example, Facebook built a data center in Los Lunas here, and they recently expanded it. There's a new marketplace, investments in the major highways in this area. And there's a rail-served industrial park. And you're going to Georgia for visiting? But so that's this area. And for anyone who's joining or watching the live stream, until midnight tonight, we do have a special coupon code. It is live NM 150. So I'll put that here in the chat. And that's for $150 off any of our New Mexico properties. And that's until midnight tonight, just for people who watch this live stream. Okay. Oh, land homesteading. Are you moving to Georgia or looking for land in Georgia? Okay. All right, cesspools. Now, I wanted to cover cesspools, kind of a unique topic, I know, but I've been talking about alternative systems. And cesspools came up because there are actually a number of homes older homes that still operate on cesspools. And, Judith, okay, well, good luck with your move. Have you already found property or are you in the market? Georgia's a popular area, I know. Pretty good weather in Georgia. All right, so. What is a cesspool? Now, this was a question that came up yesterday. There was a question of, is a cesspool the same thing as a septic system? And the answer is no. A cesspool is basically just an underground pit. It is the old-fashioned way of handling waste where you are not filtering anything. It is a holding tank, so it's usually lined. But it's designed to collect and hold wastewater, and wastewater that generally has not been treated. So it's a system that really doesn't treat water at all. It just allows liquids to seep into the surrounding soil. And this is different from a septic system, which does provide some treatment of the wastewater before distributing it into the soils. All right. Oh, so you may have seen, Judith, just to pause for a second, but we do have one property in Georgia, if you would be interested. It's number 526 in Gilmer County, if that's an area you're interested in. That's up north here in near the Blue Ridge Mountains. So the main difference between a cesspool and a septic system is filtration. Cesspools do not filter wastewater, and that's why they're more or less not allowed, as you can imagine why. But despite the fact that new cesspools are generally not allowed, they can still be found in older homes and rural areas. So many homes built before the 1970s use cesspools because a cesspool, as you would imagine, is cheaper and easier to install than a septic system. And many states, including New Hampshire and for a while Hawaii, did have grandfather clauses. That is, they allowed existing cesspools to stay in use at least until they failed. So as long as they were meeting local code requirements and they weren't, completely failing and just like dumping wastewater into the soil, they were allowed to stay. However, in most circumstances, if there's a home with a cesspool and the system fails, you would need to install a septic system that's compliant with current code. You couldn't install a new cesspool. There's also often, depending on the jurisdiction, if there's a major renovation required, that may very well also trigger an upgrade to a septic system. So cesspools are most common, again, in older housing stock, so pre-1970s, in rural areas that don't have connection to municipal sewers. There are also areas that were very rural back in the 1970s where there weren't and largely unregulated. So the Northeast rural Northeast, like New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, tends to have a fair number of cesspools, but Hawaii is actually an interesting example. It's a state that has a ton of cesspools, and it's become a big problem. So just some interesting tidbits from the news. Hawaii passed an act, the state legislature passed an act to try and remove all cesspools or convert the existing 83,000 cesspools in the state to septic tanks by 2050. And Big Island Mayor is saying that this is impossible for the Big Island to do without additional funding. But Hawaii's working on it. Just as an example of like a scope of the problem. So Hawaii, again, has around 83,000 cesspools. Most of them are on the Big Island, about 50,000. And the cesspools leach approximately 53 million gallons of untreated sewage into the ground every day. And this is why Hawaii's trying to solve it. So you can see here. Actually, the state has a higher estimate than that article. It's saying 88,000 cesspools. And again, 50,000 located on the Big Island. So, 53 million gallons of untreated sewage that they're dealing with. And that's why they want to convert all the cesspools to septics. But that is expensive. The mayor is accusing the state of putting out an unfunded mandate. So, just an interesting case study from the news. And another, if you ever go to Hawaii, they actually have a green fee now on certain tourism activities. And part of that fee may go to cover a conversion of cesspools to septic systems. So if you're wondering why there are additional tourism fees, that could be in part why. How often do you need to service a cesspool? Well, that's one of the problems. They often aren't really serviced because they're just kind of like pits in the ground. But depending on usage, you typically need to pump a cesspool every 1 to 5 years. The more people in a household, the more frequent you'll need to pump it. And, you do need to have repairs done if it's failing. And you know if a cesspool is failing because it'll drain slowly. You'll hear gurgling pipes. There'll be odors. One sign of a failing cesspool, and this actually applies to septics too. If your septic's failing, you'll see some of these signs as well. But if your grass is suddenly much greener and growing like really fast, particularly in the area where you know your cesspool or septic is, that's a sign to get it checked, because that healthy growth and nice green color is often a sign that there is additional organic matter leaching into the soil. And then standing water around the cesspool is a major red flag as well. And within the home, if you're getting sewage backing up, that's a sign that you need to get it repaired. That leads to another question. If you are buying a home that does have an existing cesspool, can it be repaired? So some of this is going to depend on your local regulations. But minor issues can sometimes be addressed and allowed by the local health authorities. But many jurisdictions do require a full replacement with a modern septic system or a public sewer hookup when a cesspool requires repairs. So that's something to keep in mind if you do happen to be buying an older home with a cesspool, that you might want to budget for conversion to a different kind of system if you plan to be there for a while. So just a little bit more going back to some of the basics of a cesspool. Again, it basically is just a pit where the liquid portion seeps into the soil and the solids accumulate accumulate inside, and then over time the solids must be pumped out. That's why there is that sort of annual, or at least every couple years, pumping requirement for a cesspool. And older cesspools are usually made of stone or brick. Newer ones, where they were still allowed, might use concrete. But they're usually some kind of masonry. And the size varies, but most are 4 to 6 feet in diameter and 8 to 12 feet deep. And like I said, today, most new cesspools are banned. There are very few places where you would be able to build one of these, a new one, legally. But older cesspools are grandfathered in. And they are, as we saw with Hawaii, a major problem because they can leach untreated waste into the groundwater, spreading pathogens, nitrates, and other pollutants. And I didn't find anywhere in particular where a system like this would be legal. But it's possible that there are some incredibly rural areas where there's no regulations at all that you could technically do this. But actually, let me see. I think there's a federal law. No, the federal government only banned large capacity cesspools, so those serving 20 plus people a day. But I think it would be safe to say that this kind of system is going to be banned almost everywhere. If there's an interest in that, I can do a little more research. But it's also generally not a good idea to build one of these. It's a little cheaper, but you don't really want to mess with your health. Like the potential for contamination is high enough that it would be better to just spend the extra money, because a conventional septic is, $5,000-8,000. It's not insanely expensive. Okay, so if you are in a situation where you have a home with a cesspool and you have to replace it, what are the alternatives? So in most cases, you just want to replace it with a conventional septic system. That would be the easiest and cheapest. If the area you're living in now has connection to public sewer, that's another option. Connection to public sewer usually involves a connection fee. That's a couple $1,000s, but then you don't have to worry about sewer ever again. As we discussed yesterday, though, there might be some locations where a conventional septic doesn't work and you would need an alternative septic system. So the cost to upgrade to a modern septic system will vary. A conventional system could be, $8,000. When you're looking at alternative systems, that might go up to $10,000 to $20,000. So when you need to replace a cesspool, the first step is to get your percolation test done, your soils tested, figure out what kind of system you're looking at, and then you can get a better idea of what the costs will be. All right. And that leads to another question. If you're looking at older homes, so these would generally be homes that are older than are built before the 1970s, is it worth buying a property if it has a cesspool? And the short answer is yes, you just want to budget for a replacement, especially if you plan to be there for a while. So it's a good idea to assume that at some point you're going to have to upgrade your system, and keep that in mind when you're budgeting. Another question then would be, will a cesspool affect property value if you do end up selling while the home still has a cesspool? The answer is yes, for reasons I think we can all understand. Many buyers do see it as a negative because of the potential environmental concerns and replacement costs. So from a resale perspective, an upgrade to a modern system might make sense. You gotta look at it in the context of potential home value, and you can always work with a knowledgeable realtor in your area to see like what the value difference in your home would be versus the cost of the new system. And another big question when we're talking about buying and selling properties with cesspools, do lenders care about cesspools? Well, that's going to be very lender specific. A lender will probably require an inspection to make sure that it is not a true environmental hazard, so that it's not like leaking and you're going to have to immediately go in and clean up the area. And there are instances where certain lenders may deny financing until a cesspool is replaced based on the results of the inspection. So that's something to keep in mind, but it is going to be lender specific. So you always want to talk to your lender about that. All right, so finally, if you're buying a home with a cesspool, what is the lifespan of a cesspool? When should you anticipate needing to replace it? So the good news is cesspools can often last a very long time, decades, if they're maintained well. But performance does decline over time. So you'll want to know when the cesspool was built and get an inspection of it to see what kind of shape it is in. And then you can determine how much longer you might have before it becomes a major issue. Oh, well, thank you for joining, Judith. I hope to see you again soon. And let me know if you have any questions about any of our properties or if there's a topic you'd like me to cover. And then, yes, I can show those other properties. I'll wrap up. Well, I guess, Judith, since you're leaving, I just want to show you quickly. I know you're specifically interested in Georgia, but in case you are interested in other states, we do have over 50 properties available. And we have a lot in North Carolina, a number in New Mexico, as I highlighted, and we do have that New Mexico coupon code if anyone wants to purchase before midnight tonight. That's for $150 off. And we do have properties in Florida as well as New York and one in Oregon. And we'll be getting more properties. We're going to be getting a lot more properties coming up. So keep an eye out for that. And like I said before, the coupon code, if you did want to check out a New Mexico property, is LiveNM150 for $150 off by midnight. And we do have a free guide for anyone who's watching the live stream, 17 Simple Ways to Generate Income from Land in 2025. This is 17 ways you can make money from land without building a home on it. So if you are interested in land and want to figure out more cost-effective ways of making money from your land, you can get that guide. It's free. And the link is in the description. It'll also be in a pinned comment on this live stream. So that is it for today. Finally, the link to our website is gokchecapital.com, but to find all of our available properties, you can go to land.gokcap.com. So that's land.gokcap.com. All right. And final question, is every property available for owner financing? As I mentioned before, all of our properties that just say available, they don't say listed with a realtor, are for sale by owner. That means that we offer owner financing, and we'll tailor those terms to each buyer. So we'll work with you to figure out a down payment and monthly payment that is affordable for you. Just reach out to us and we can work with you on that. All of our properties that are for sale by owner can also be held for up to 8 days, so you can do your research and not worry about someone else buying it. And a lot of the less expensive properties, I'll also note with owner financing, we can go as low as $1 down. And that's a good point. I can also put a link to the listing page in the pinned comment and in the description. So you have that link if you want to check out all of our properties. And then tomorrow, my partner has a lot of ideas, reminding me of all the things I need to talk about. Tomorrow we actually have another gift about Putnam County. So I'll highlight another Putnam County property tomorrow and share a different free gift related to Putnam County on tomorrow's live stream. Great. So thank you everyone for joining, and there'll be more to come tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern.